For most of my adult life, I've spent and had so much fun trying to get any stakeholder, anybody to buy in, validate, and talk about the things I want to do, the dreams I have, the things I just think are cool, the things I would want to do. I have a list miles long of things I've shared and forced and beaten people over with. It's amazing how much time I've spent doing those things without anything to show for it other than those conversations. And, a good time in having them and fleshing them out. But where it isn't fun and where it wasn't a good time is when I looked at all that time talking about all these things I could have done and never did because I wasn't accountable. It's hard to get started. It's hard to keep going. And things are easier when you share that burden with others. They don't have to actively even necessarily get the project enough to be a part of it. But when you find someone to help you be accountable, a partner in accountability, it's amazing what you can do when you're always held to a standard that keeps you moving forward. So let's talk about how we build an escape plan to get you out of just talking about your dreams and being accountable enough to make them happen, because you're not alone. You have people that can help you. They're around you in your life and they're around you online. There are no excuses to not being accountable. And we're going to get past that together. So accountability, much like responsibility, they're kind of like brothers and sisters in this, or, they kind of hang out. The thing with them is we feel like they're bad words. They're not fun words. They're the working words.
Ugh, responsibility.
Accountability. Do I have to? Can I just live in my dreams? But the thing about dreams is you wake up. And each day you wake up without that dream actually being something that has any chance of happening, kind of kills you a little inside. It makes it harder to actually accomplish it later. But yeah, we look at these things as bad words. Responsibility, accountability, doing the work, because we want this self-gratifying daily thing of thinking about the happiest parts of our dreams. What it's like to do it. To sometimes even think about the money we'll make or the way that we won't have to do this job we hate. We spend endless pockets of minutes that add up to hours, that add up to days and months and years of our lives, fantasizing without application. Fantasy is good, but dreams start things that you have to finish, you have to be accountable for. Because do you want the things that matter most to you to feel like making some Do you want the things that matter to you to feel like some broken New Year's revolution?
Revolution?
Yes, a revolution of New Year's. No, we're coming up in New Year's resolutions. We see people who say they're going to do this thing. Many of us are guilty of it, whether we put it out into the world or not, where we're going to make a promise to ourselves, to everyone around us, that we're going to do this thing that for some reason we've not been able to do, but because it's New Year's, it's a new year and a year. For some reason, this magical day of January 1st changes everything. We are a new person. It's going to be 2020, 2021, and blah, blah, blah. And that means nothing. It's a day. If you didn't do it the other days and you weren't accountable, then what about a day makes you any more special? And the worst part is that we feel that for somehow saying it out loud will make us more accountable because we're putting it out to people. That's halfway right, but definitely wrong in execution, because when Facebook goes around or any social media and I'm going to lose 50 pounds. For some reason, I've eaten like garbage all year. I want to get fit. You know what I need to tell? I need to tell all my Facebook friends, because they're really invested in my success. They care enough to hold me accountable. So when I'm still fat, and I am,
I wasn't going to say it.
Well, that's not your word. That's our word. When I still struggle to do the things I need to do, who do I have to look to but myself? I put it all on myself But yet somehow I put it out there. I said I was going to do this. I was going to do this thing on Facebook. Why didn't any of those people who liked my post about losing weight hold me accountable?
Well, that's the dichotomy of accountability. At the end of the day, it is all on me. Mm-hmm. I'm accountable to myself to put in the work, to take the steps needed to make progress on this dream or just whatever facet of my life. If I do want to get in better shape and work out more, if I do want to eat healthier, if I do want to work on my craft and my illustration, that's all up to me. But as I said, there's a dichotomy because the fact is we're lazy. I'm lazy, I'm unmotivated, I'm undedicated, undisciplined.
Why are we in business together?
That's just it though. We found our accountability partner. And that's why we're doing this, is because we finally found someone who is going to hold us accountable. And that's why we need people in our lives that will push us along the way, because life gets tough. You know, it may be fun illustrating today, but tomorrow suddenly you've got a block. It's hard. It's difficult. You're not in the mood. You're tired. But your accountability partner ends up being there, pushing you along the way. And you talked about how we spend so much time just talking about the dreams. Again, it goes back to the fact that we're just lazy. It's much more easy.
I feel kind of called out, by the way.
Well, I'm just as guilty as anyone. You know, we're lazy, and it's much easier to just talk about it. Plus, it does give us a little sense of gratification when, you know, the other person who's listening is like, oh, that's a great idea. You should definitely do it. But then what if you don't do it? Then suddenly, the more and more you're hearing that's a great idea, it can have the reverse effect and kind of put you under further and further, and just thinking this is never going to come to fruition because I'm never spending the time doing it. And someone who is going to hold you accountable, someone who is going to expect from you results, that's who you need by your side to help you move along.
No, I mean, going back to this social media society where we seek validation and we get brokenhearted by this bias of everyone else's lives because we feel invested, but they're not as invested in us. This is this weird, again, dichotomy of things that are true and untrue and how we perceive our relationship with the people in our lives, because there's so many people who aren't really in our lives but are interacting with them there. We brought up losing weight or being fit. We've worked out together this year and held each other accountable because each morning, if one of us was feeling a little bit lazy, the other person, we felt responsible to the other person. We've made a commitment. That commitment holds more true than those people who I'd say this to on Facebook, because I'm not going to go knocking on every door, making every phone call going, hey, look, at 12 a.m. one day, I decided I was going to have a cheeseburger. And that cheeseburger was like really greasy and really unhealthy. And when it wasn't one cheeseburger, it was 5. And you weren't there for me to keep me accountable and make sure that even if I ate like that I lost weight. How ridiculous does that sound? I mean, think about that. Another person saying, come to the gym, man. Why aren't you here? And knowing that you let them down, you will own up to that. But going back and reversing the field and going to hold other people accountable for holding you accountable, if he doesn't hold me accountable, I'm going to be like, you failed me too. I didn't just fail you. But if you go knocking on all those Facebook friends' doors and saying, hey, man, I ate a lot of cheeseburgers this year. Where were you? They're going to be like,
dude, I just like the post. Go away.
Unfriend.
Yeah.
We are not that close. I haven't seen you in 10 years. We went to high school together.
Yeah.
I like your kids' pics and your kitty pics. I'm here for the memes. I just liked it to make you feel good.
Yeah. And that's part of, you can have an accountability partner. I think not necessarily being in direct face-to-face contact, but it's just that much more difficult, especially if you haven't already built that relationship with that person. Because accountability is based in trust and respect for the other individual. But also to that point is understanding not everyone is an accountability partner for everything. My wife, for example, is not a good accountability partner when it comes to physical fitness. That's because she verbally says to me, why would anyone want to sweat? She's much more content just getting her 10,000 steps in with her Fitbit and being happy. That's her physical exercise. Me, the 10,000 steps isn't do for me. I like to sweat. I like to get up there and get out there. But I'm also lazy, so if I don't have an accountability partner, then I'm not working out. But in the same notion, she's incredible when it comes to holding me accountable for the things I eat. And we're both very health conscious, and we definitely encourage each other. We also encourage each other to splurge a little bit. But we found the things that we can hold each other accountable. But in that regard, you know, my wife wasn't necessarily even a good accountability partner for me to pursue this thing. You know, I had different things that I wanted to try. I talked about t-shirts, trying to do t-shirt business once, and just didn't have the discipline to do it. It's my fault. I'm not blaming my wife, but she also didn't hold me accountable just because that's not her thing. That's not something she could hold me accountable to. Whereas Sterling over here definitely holds me accountable when it comes to a creative business and putting in the work and making sure things are moving forward.
Do I, though?
Yes.
Okay. Well, no, and I think you put it right there. It's if you're thinking of your life like a company or any organization is run when it's run well, you don't expect your financial analysts to be your creative people. Now, it doesn't mean a person can't be creative or that a creative can't be financially sound, but from a term of specialty. So when we think about our lives, I don't expect my mother, who doesn't even know what marketing people do, she's a highly intelligent woman, but even taking on a marketing manager position, she's like, "Are you sure that's something that you should be doing?" I'm like, "It's what I've been doing for the most part outside of my military time for the better part of 18 years." Oh, okay. What do you do? Let's not talk about that because we assume that everyone knows everything and everyone's obsessed with their lives and they have equal ability to impact it. You're picking the people who are, whether they're subject matter experts or whatever things that they can give you the best push. Brene Brown talks about a square squad.
Yep.
And to simplify this without getting really deep, it's about the people who you need to have that have a real vocal impact in your life. She mentions it more on a base level, more for emotions and interactions.
Yep.
But if you apply that to your goals, your dreams, and you break that into segments, you can have different square squad for different things. You can have your life and your faith or any other things that drive you from that foundation. But those people aren't necessarily, maybe one or none, are even going to come from that square squad into your ambitions and dreams. Because maybe they can't interface and give you what you need. How can a person hold you accountable if you're an astrophysicist if they don't know anything beyond the simplest things? They still think Pluto's a planet. Let's not get in that debate for those who think it is.
I was going to say.
I mean, I don't want to start any fights here. I didn't make the rules. But it's not a planet right now. But it might identify as a planet.
No. Oh, goodness. But I guess to that point is an accountability partner does a couple of things. For one, they're someone who's going to challenge your ideas. They're not simply there to placate you. They're not simply there to give a validation brush, like so. They're there because they have a vested interest in your success. They want to see you succeed. They like your ideas, or they don't, and they want to help guide you to your potential. So they're going to challenge those ideas, and then they expect results. They want to see you actually deliver. If you're going to say you're going to do something, do it, and they're going to hold you accountable to that. Also, they're going to call out your bluffs. So, if you're waking up for a workout and deciding, "Oh, I'm tired, I want to show up," your accountability partner is going to tell you point blank, "Yeah, I'm tired too. Get your butt out of bed and come to the gym." But then to that point, before you think that they're just some hard, tough person who's rigid and not going to let you, budge an inch, they're also someone who is compassionate, who's going to listen when life gets tough, help you through those challenges, help you overcome those obstacles. Because even though life is filled with so many grand and wonderful experiences, it's also filled with a lot of dread, a lot of frustration, anger, sadness, depression. An accountability partner is someone who is going to be there to help you navigate that. So that way you don't just fall off the bandwagon, but keep pushing you and encouraging you to keep marching forward.
Well, and with those partners, I know that there's times that some people will just support you no matter what.
Yeah.
So you need the right people to support you, because if somebody's holding you accountable, you actually know that every time they praise you, so they might be holding you accountable and putting you through the work, but when you do well, having them say you did a good job means more than somebody who always says everything you do is amazing. Yeah. And you might love that mother, grandmother, father, a person that gives you approval at everything you do because they really care. But it's kind of like, I don't know, did you have one of those teachers that everyone thought was a horrible, mean teacher, but they were your favorite teacher?
Yep.
Because you could see that they weren't mean, they just expected more. Yeah. And when you made them happy and you wrote that paper and got an A or something, and maybe because I'm a nerd and I enjoy getting those A's, you're like, that A meant more to you, or B might even mean more than you than an A in another class. We had that in our experiences at college together.
Exactly, yeah.
There were the professors that made grades the most hard. I wanted the most approval for because I knew that when they held me accountable and I succeeded, that it meant more than someone was like, "Oh, you participated. Here's an A." I was like, but how do I get better? What does this mean? Is this just a grade to placate and just fill in a grade book? Because we have that in life where we sometimes, I think, surround ourselves with those people so willing to give validation. But realistically, and you alluded to the validation brush. Now, I'm going to take a step back because that is something that is kind of present in our conversations, but not something we've talked about here. Story time for a moment.
Ooh.
I'll do the abridged version because I think we'll talk about this more in greater enjoyable detail in the future. Years ago, my younger sister, Callie, and all of us, my wife and I, all lived in the same house. My sister and I, and a lot of people who have creative ambitions, for some reason really love talking about things and wanting people to nod and wave and celebrate with them. But because she's my sister and I'm not so easy to give validation because I'm a butt of a big brother and she's a butt of a little sister, I looked at her one time as she talked and I'm like, what do you want from me? In my head, that's all I'm thinking is, what does she want from me? She's talking at me, but not to me. She doesn't look like she wants feedback. So I looked at her, I turned to her, and she's like, what? And I go, like a paintbrush, it was a validation brush because I felt like the only thing I can give her is that validation. The only thing she was seeking was validation. Validation without purpose and a direction is meaningless because it only makes you feel good for a fleeting moment and it gives you no equity towards moving forward, being accountable, and getting things done. But they're still good to give if they make people feel good, but they actually have to have substance behind them.
I mean, that's my whole relationship with my grandmother. And we all have that doting parent, doting grandmother, like you mentioned, that just only ever says good things about you. You have so much potential. You have so much talent. You're going to go far in this life. And the thing is, you know, as a child, it's so encouraging. But then as you start getting older, you start thinking like, I haven't done anything. And in
I
fact,
don't deserve this.
Right, exactly. And so it doesn't have as much value. Now, to take a step back, not to make it seem like those words don't matter or that they don't believe in or they're ingenuine. I think we need family that is going to believe in us through it all, who sees the worst in us, but also sees the best in us, and is going to continue to push us for the best. But we also need those people, like you said, who you got to work hard to get that approval. But just like that, because we are closer to that person's voice means more, we're also more receptive to their criticism. It's easy on internet to criticize other people. You know, we're anonymous. You can put up your complaints. But why do we listen so often to those criticisms when these aren't people that we know? They're not people we trust. They're not in our square squad, right? And so we have to be able to disregard some of those things because sometimes people are just mean. It's the world, unfortunately. But then we need to also be able to get our accountability partner to give us that criticism, because while praise is good, criticism will help mold us and shape us and give us the direction we need to better pivot and adjust. So that way we're not just running the same wall over and over again.
Well, no, and that's just it. We talked about accountability a lot as this burden, this responsibility to do the work. But think about, again, how accountability partners are also that shield. Because if you only put an investment on each of these different areas we talked about where you have that square squad, those people who matter, that you can become deaf a lot more to the things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Because you're both having to hear it and hear it more with a lot more aggression towards making sure you are accountable. But by that same token, you realize that their opinion is the one that matters more so than the random person online who, now if they give you something constructive, take it. But oftentimes, the ones that hurt us aren't the people who are constructive. We're like happy. I know I'd be happy to have some constructive criticism.
Yeah.
But somebody going, you suck.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm sorry you feel that way. Could you add at least more than that one line to tell me why I do so that I can endeavor to be better the next time? Because you suck for saying I suck. Not because you suck for any other reason that you didn't give proper feedback and your feedback sucks. So now we both suck and neither of us know why, but at least I told you. So now you can think about it. Why are you so mean, internet? I just want us all to be friends. But the internet doesn't want that to happen.
I guess not.
It's lacking in accountability. The internet needs an accountability partner.
I see what you did there. That was a good tie-in.
Good. But it's just so hard to get going, and it's so easy to give up on anything that matters. And it's sad to say that because I know my dreams. Literally, I've sewn the things I care about into my identity.
Yeah.
So when I'm not doing this, amazing how much that hurts. And we're just talking about the creative endeavors in life in general. But you know what? There's been videos posted to the effect of this, and even talking about the pain and things about not being able to accomplish your dreams has come up throughout numerous videos. I've had a rough year and some change. And without getting into some crazy depressing diatribe about it, having accountability to not be unhappy, to make commitments. You know what? My mental health was very well safeguarded because I made commitments to a person, which means I wasn't trying to think about dark thoughts as much because I was like, well, if this is not taking me anywhere to own up to my responsibilities. I had purpose even when layoffs and other things seemed to take my worth and purpose away. Those are extreme examples that I hope most of you or none of you have to go through. I know some of you have, and some of you still will. And for that, I'm sorry. Find people. Because people is this whole thing. You could take accountability and accountability partners out of the topic for a moment. The biggest thing that we will constantly talk about, whether it's accountability to people, the word is people. Connecting to people. People will help you be accountable. People will help you know what's good or bad. People will keep you going. Focus on people. People over the product that you make. Be accountable to people. Be accountable to yourself. And you'll be amazed at what you can do if you can focus on that and build from there.
I mean, that's right on the money. I'm not even sure I have anything to add to that. But look around. Who can be your accountability partner? Because the thing is, chances are they're in your immediate circle already. And that's because they're people that you trust. They're people that are like-minded. They're people that you have good rapport with. Perhaps maybe one of them has a similar interest to you. Is there some way where you guys can either collaborate directly on a project, or is there a way that you guys can meet up once a week, making sure, how's your project going? This is how my project's going, and keep on moving. For us, we have the huge benefit of having someone who we respect, who we love, who pushes us, who challenges us, that we can keep on coming at this day after day and moving forward, because this isn't easy. And it hasn't been easy. It's been fun. It's been chaotic. It's been stressful. It's been frustrating. It's been rewarding. And having people there help you get through those tough times. So that way you can keep pushing forward and see the good in it all. Because at the end of the day, I love doing this. I love taking the steps forward. But if I didn't have Sterling, I would not be here. I would be miserable trying the 13th idea out of 100 more to come, spending a week on it, giving up, and going on to the next thing. And that's frustrating, that's depressing, but when you have someone who's close to you, who sees the value in your idea, who sees the value in you, that's how you start making forward momentum. And that's, people push people forward. We're social creatures, we need other people. Don't think you have to or even can do at this alone. You may be stronger, more disciplined than we are, but if you're already that disciplined, when you add people, you'll be even that much more.
No, I would challenge any of you, if you don't see those people immediately in your life, and even if you have some, think about this. Go creeper level for a moment here with me. Bear with me. Think about people you've met in the recent 5 to 10 years in your life, depending on how old you are, that you've felt touched your life, touched on the things you care about in each one of these areas. We made friends almost 7 years ago at college.
Yeah.
We liked each other enough to spend endless evenings and days in a parking lot at a college talking about them.
Sometimes staying up 2 a.m, standing in that parking lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yet, despite that, we separated for a while and we both wanted things. We both were in alignment. The funny thing is we were in alignment then.
Mm-hmm.
But we were also distracted by the task at hand. So when I say go creeper level, it's think about almost like if you went back through your mental social media and go, who have I had this emotional connection with a relationship with? And am I still somewhat linked to them to start a conversation to see where they are? I've heard a lot of stories about people who met each other and came back together and built these amazing companies and things. Because when the time came, we stumbled across each other. I just happened to reach out and realize we worked less than a mile from each other.
Literally 2 blocks.
2 blocks in the same downtown area here in San Antonio. And it was like, oh, let's take a walk. And within the first times of talking, we picked right back up and slowly but incrementally reestablished that trust and an interest. And have since then gone from that to the fantasy sharing to then holding each other accountable to make things happen. And most of this year has been us making sure each of us is patient. Most of us are doing the things we need to do to keep going, but that it's getting done, that it's not just talked about anymore. So that's what I mean by that is you've probably already met them, even if they're not active participant in your daily life. One of my favorite people in the world is someone that I can't imagine doing this without.
Yep.
And yet they weren't in my life when I made many plans that we're doing now. Just like I wasn't in their life with many of the things they've wanted to do so desperately themselves. So don't get discouraged if you don't see immediately someone right there because you've probably already met them. And if for some reason you haven't, you're likely to walk into them in the most random of places, at your job, your school, what other places where you're just talking and interacting may open up wonderful places. So long as you don't just talk about them, but you see where maybe talking about them and bringing what they love and what you love together can make something happen.
I think that's a really valid point. Even if you just get started a little bit and have just a little bit to show for it, that right there is a great way to just immediately start the conversation. We're already talking about the things we're passionate about. Find the people who are receptive to it and engaging back and are contributing to it. That's where it really starts. But also the beauty of it is we do have the internet. There are online communities we can engage in.
Absolutely.
We also have resources like Meetup where you can actually find groups that are meeting regularly on discussing topics, engaging in things that are related to what you want to do. Start searching and finding those things. Do some investigative work. I guess a little creeper mode there. You can find them. They're out there. And chances are they probably need an accountability partner just as bad as you do.
So yes, embrace productively the creeper within. Find people, connect with them. There are so many avenues that are there now. I mean, when I think about coming out of school the first time, there weren't things that are there now. Like in our own community, we have things like a thing called Geekdom, which brings entrepreneurs, especially in the tech industry, together. So those things exist in most any large community. And if for some reason yours doesn't have it, as you said, it's online. And we're going to hold ourselves accountable because we're running long and his cat is hungry. So sometimes there are other external accountability partners that want to voice their opinions, and sometimes you have to listen. In a minute! He's a good kitty.
I love him.
He's a good fluff ball, but he is, again, he's not the right accountability partner because he's not invested in the creative process or what it takes to get it done. But every now and then he does have a nice meow that reminds us that we have gone long. So with that, do you have anything else, Mason? No. So be accountable for being accountable. Find people that you can be accountable with. But realistically, most importantly, connect.
Yeah.
And make sure that when you do connect, that you're doing it with purpose. Enjoy the company. Share your dreams. But once you got that out, that's the icebreaker. Put it to purpose. If those people are there, just take stake in it. And if they're not, you know very quickly that maybe you shouldn't inundate them with your dreams because they're not invested in them the same way that you need them to be.
Find your accountability partner. Engage with them, and they'll be there. They'll be your greatest ally, your greatest resource for this endeavor. They are worth their weight in gold.
And never let them get away.
And that's a lot of gold.
Is that a fat joke? No, because we joke about putting a ring on it. And honestly, if he ever tried to back out now, I would guilt him to the end of time. I mean, I tell him that it's okay if this doesn't work out for you, you know. But really, if he ever abandoned any endeavor now, I'd lay it on thick. And you should too.